Emotional uncertainty will not just help you with your identity, it will very much help you with love. You will be able to accept that love is a very varying and asymmetric feeling. When two people are in love, they have each their own feelings in themselves, and the feelings are quite different. And if the love is one-sided, then the person who has the love, and the other has nothing. Love will vary over time, which, if you look at love in the box way, like I'm in love or I'm not in love, it will cause a lot of confusion in these moments when you're supposed to be in love, but you feel like a small part of the love that you felt yesterday. And there will be such moments, and it's not such a problem. Feelings vary, love varies, and if it's a flow and you give up the boxes, the relationship statuses, all of the definitions of love, it will just be better. Some things are best left undescribed, fluid, and without any boxes and any barriers. What you need to entirely erase from the concept of love is anything transactional. If you have transactional expectations or feelings in love, it's not true love, and it's some love, maybe mixed with some other feelings and expectations of love, mixed with some other feelings and expectations of life. And every feeling about a transaction, about I give you love and something, and you give me love and something, all of this will just get in the way of true love. Because love is supposed to get better over time. And if there is a transactional element, it's something that instead of progress will bring regress to the love. If you try to completely remove this and have only the core love giving force, you will be much happier and you will live in much greater harmony than if your love is mixed with anything transactional. So, in order to remove the transactional things that most of us assign partially to love, we need to embrace the flows and embrace emotional uncertainty. Am I going to give love and receive nothing in return? Maybe, but that's how life is anyway. So in this case, it's better to remove the boxes, remove all transactional elements, remove all expectations, and embrace the emotional uncertainty that you may love in vain, because it's not in vain. If you have the right attitude and emotional uncertainty and flows, love is never in vain, because if you're in love and this love ends up unreturned or unreturned in a proper, healthy way, then you have good, real love in your heart, and the other person, he has the lack of love or the toxicity or whatever. So you get the better deal. The ones who loves for real always gets the better deal. I know that this is contrary to kind of how society views love and relationship, but society is wrong and culture is wrong for many of those things. So you should really trust your heart. Remove all of these transactional boxes from love. Love, don't care if it's returned. And of course, if you have the flows, it will also help you to complete the puzzle of a good love life, which is falling in love with the greatest people ever. Because there's actually only these two things that you need in love: to love in the right way and to love the right people. That's all you need. Sometimes it will be mutual, sometimes not, but you will never be unhappy with the right love and the right people on the other side. So emotional uncertainty will help you with love, but it will also help you with self-love. Why? Because you don't need any reason, any boxes, any justifications to have self-love. It's not supposed to be deserved. and everyone should have unconditional self-love because it's in their own best interest in every possible way. Your relationship with yourself is one that you cannot run away from, or you just need it to be the best possible, which means ultimate self-love no matter what happens. This does not mean not to take responsibility, not to recognize your mistakes, your bad performance, but if you have real self-love, it will be better and more effective in all of this than if you had a bad relationship with yourself. There's never any benefit from being bad to yourself. Self-love is one of the ultimate flows. It's never deserved or undeserved. It just is like any flow. And in order to have it, you need to give it space. You need to give it space to grow. And you should get rid of all of these boxes, the definitions of a good life, a bad life, a good performance, a bad performance, deserving, undeserving, fuck all that. It's interesting that emotional uncertainty will help you be closer to reality. Now, how can uncertainty get you closer to reality, as uncertainty is not really anything? Well, this is because you don't take time into account. When you take time into account and look at real life situations, for example, there was a messy situation in life, there was a breakup. You immediately want to assign some certainty. You want to say it was my fault or it was my ex's fault. You want to assign certainty, often in the form of blame, either inwards or outward. People usually have at least one of these two instincts, to assign blame inwards or outwards, which is a form of certainty, a form of a box. You don't need this box. Just let time pass. After a few months, there will be much more clarity who did what wrong, what was where were the matches, where were the mismatches. When the emotions pass, you'll just see clarity. But the thing is that in order for this to happen, you must not like shit all over the painting of the past. Like if you put all of your irrational emotions without the time for intuition to pass, and you just make verdicts, make conclusions, use logic, which is, as I say 1,000 times, the worst possible ability of humans. If you use all of those, you start changing the picture. Instead of just leaving what it is in the past, good or bad or mixed, and just leaving time, leave the dust to settle, and then have clarity by just looking backward. Instead, you continue drawing over the picture. You continue doing verdicts. You continue with the conclusions and the logic and the blame. And who will this help? You or anyone else, or the truth? Who will this help? No one. It's just an ugly instinct that we have for certainty, especially in emotions. But there's no point in that. Just let it be. If you're thinking about it all the time, find yourself something else to think, something nice. Get yourself a hobby or something, be around good people, be around friends, and just don't ruminate on what is in the past, because the goal of rumination is supposed to be to get closer to the truth, but I promise you it would only get you further away from the truth, because truth comes with clarity and with intuition. This needs time and needs the valid data points, and you have the valid data points, but you ruin them in real time if you think about them before time has passed. So don't do it. You don't have to be certain. You don't have to know what went wrong. You will know in a while. Be patient and it will work out. So once you are comfortable with the internal intellectual and emotional uncertainty, when we remove the boxes within, it's time to remove the boxes that are between us and the world, which are mostly the expectation. Now there's a huge difference between expectation and prediction. Prediction is invaluable. It's the defining feature of human intelligence. If you want to have one word, a single word, about what separates humans from animals, it's prediction. Because animals have a lot of the things humans have. Intelligent mammals like apes and elephants and dogs and dolphins, they have emotions, they have complex behavior, they have social structures, they have some primitive forms of language they communicate, but what they don't have is prediction. Prediction is something that is very unique to humans, and prediction is a defining feature of intelligence. You cannot be intelligent if you cannot predict, because even the future of 1 second after now is some future. If you cannot predict it, you cannot think almost in the present. Prediction is about every process in the world is defined somehow by predicting the next step of the process. No matter if you're doing it or if you're observing it. If I try to get this glass of water and lift it, my motor cortex of the brain is predicting how the glass will feel before I actually feel it. And this is how I measure the prediction with reality. And this is why I can easily lift the glass and do whatever, while it would take a 3-year dissertation to make a robot lift the glass and not spill anything. Prediction is at the core of human intelligence. And you should never be running away from prediction. But expectation is just prediction with an emotional load. So while predicting, you're being indifferent. You're just thinking of what will not happen or might happen with probabilities. And when the prediction becomes an expectation, when you put an emotional load, then you ruin everything. All of the good sides of prediction become the bad sides of expectations. Prediction is a rich flow of data, experience, intuition, and it gives us the nuance of the potential odds of the future scenarios. It's opening your mind to the richness of the world. And whenever you turn prediction into expectations, you immediately lose everything. You lose all of the nuance. You put a box into all of this flow of data and probabilities and everything that represents the real world exactly, which we try to predict. When we expect something, it all collapses into a single outcome that we expect. So expectations are ruining our only big power that really makes us different from animals. So think this: the moment you start expecting the things in your life, you are downgrading yourself so much evolutionary that you may become in your intellectual abilities closer to an animal, to a chimp, than to a human who doesn't expect and just uses the power of prediction. Expectations are just a total truth killer and joy killer. It's just they ruin everything, because happiness is reality divided by expectations. If you had very high expectations, good reality is just meh. If you had low expectations, even moderately good reality becomes a pleasant surprise. So expectations ruin happiness. They ruin your pursuit of the truth because you lose the nuance of prediction. You replace this super complex and greatly working intellectual flow of prediction, you replace it with a box. This box is emotionally loaded because when you expect something, it's either good or bad usually. You very rarely expect like things to go like super neutral. Like it's not how our emotions work like. So, and things usually end in some like neutral scenario, but we expect the super good, the super bad. We are all over the place. So we just cloud our judgment. We destroy the power of prediction. And all of this is extremely harmful to our whole existence. So if there is a golden rule, which is valid absolutely every time, in all situations, is not to have expectations. You can still have predictions if you can have the internal awareness to have predictions without expectations. Good. Expectations are so harmful that sometimes if you don't have the internal strength to have predictions without expectations, sometimes it's just better to just go with the flow and not have predictions at all. Might be scary, but at least you're not unhappy. I mean, with expectations, you're off the chart, and without predictions, you're off the chart. Without both, at least you're happy. Like you're not ruining your happiness. So with expectations, you're ruining everything, and expectations are a typical box thing. Why do we have expectations? Well, just like many other biological relics like anxiety, it's a way for our biology to remind us that something is important. In this case, something in the future. Just like anxiety is a natural response to something being important, so we can point our attention to it. Just like every sort of pain, expectations are supposed to tell us that something is important in the future. However, back in the Stone Age when we fought for survival, a lot of things were important, like catching the animal, killing it, roasting it, managing to sustain a fire, managing to find good clothes, to manage to build shelter, to move around, to fight off competing tribes because these were violent times. In this setting, if we kind of imagine the life of the Stone Age human, like when the competing tribe is plotting about killing the men in your tribe and taking away the wives for themselves, it's too bad to be paranoid, you know. If you live in such a hostile world, like hostile from nature, hostile from other humans, hostile sometimes in your own tribe if there's a power struggle. If you live in such hostility, it's normal to evolve to be anxious. It's normal to evolve to expect the good, the bad, to just be all over the place with your mind and emotions. But the life we live now in modern times in the developed countries, it's completely different. So not only we don't need the anxiety, even if it's built into us, in most times we don't need it, but we also don't need the expectations. They come from the same place that the anxiety is, just an evolutionary relic that is maybe helpful for being paranoid and increasing the odds of passing your genes in a very insecure and violent world. But if you're having expectations and disappointments about not enough people liking your Facebook post or Instagram photo, it's clear that something got broken in the way. Expectations are very, very unhelpful in the modern world. For more than one reason. Expectations, like if you don't get what was expected, totally a loss of time and energy and focus. If you get what you expected, you may argue that expectations at least have some of the benefits of prediction, which is that you could prepare mentally or in some other intellectual way. But when we evolved in the Stone Age, there were not a lot of options of things to go. Not a lot of different options. The width of the human choice tree and like events was not so wide. Well, you were trying to kill a bison. Well, there were two possible outcomes. You kill it or you don't kill it. Then saber-toothed tiger was chasing you. Again, two options. It either caught you and ate you or it didn't. So even if you had expectations, you were right a lot of times because it wasn't that hard to guess. Most of the outcomes were pretty binary. But in the modern times, to try to have expectations of things like how would my university feel, or how will my colleagues treat me in my new job. Well, that 1,000 of different options, like super good, super bad, super mixed, super changing over time. Work is a collection of so many different things. For example, they can treat you emotionally good, but they can be very incompetent and teach you wrong things. That like the options are thousands for the different scenarios in your new job. And in this case, I try to guess, and it's useless. It's expectations in the modern world is just trying to guess between millions of options. And it's just a useless effort. We're doing it as a coping mechanism to to feel better, to feel more secure. But if we embrace emotional uncertainty, we don't need this anymore. And actually, the main reason that emotional uncertainty is so important is so that you can remove the super harmful, super boxy expectations from your life. Because only if you're okay with emotional uncertainty, only then you can remove expectations. Otherwise, this coping mechanism is very biological, very strong, and you just will not be able to completely remove them. The road is from the deeper thing, the emotional uncertainty, to the behavior, to the removing the expectations and the way they express in our thoughts and actions. So once you are able to remove emotional uncertainty, you can ditch the expectations and live a much happier and more successful life. Of course, removing the expectations in practice will show you that living with emotional uncertainty is actually much easier than you thought. To summarize, when do expectations help you? Never. They are a box, a cunning trap where you catch and butcher the beautiful nuanced flow of prediction just because of your desire for certainty. Something that can help you in this is to accept the world as it is, and to accept it as one whole, a system, something emergent that is very imperfect, but it's no one's fault, because the world is just a result of the winistic forces, push and pull forces, different people, structures, and it is what it is. In this case, you will have less expectations from the world. In this case, you will have less expectations from individual people because you will see them as products of the environment, which they largely are. I don't want to run back on personal responsibility. I view it as very high regard, but you cannot be responsible for other people's responsibility. It's their job to be responsible, and it's your job to feel good and to progress. So you should remove your expectations from people. And a very important thing is that you should remove your expectations from yourself, which is like the final stage of letting go. Removing expectations will help you accept the world and people as they are, which will help you help people become better and will help you to change world systems for the better. Without removing expectations, you cannot accept what is going on in the world. You cannot accept the inherent imperfectibility of world systems. And without accepting them, you cannot understand them. And without understanding them, you cannot change them. So everything that you want to do with the world starts with acceptance, removing expectations so you can understand intuitively and then strive for change. If you have expectations from people, they will disappoint you and you will just feel unhappy. But at least it will be exposure therapy for your expectations. Sooner or later, you will learn that it's much easier and better, healthier to live without expectations from other people. Of course, if someone is disappointing you, you have the full right to, of course, if it's not your kid, to kick this person out of your life. And yeah, that's that. Just choose among people, reward the ones who give you the best, but don't expect that you deserve something, because deserving is a concept that is a boxy concept and it will get in the way of your love and self-love. So no one really deserves anything. We just exchange flows, and if someone is not giving you good things, you can just go into another direction. People are not perfect, don't expect it from them, but even less perfect are systems. Systems are imperfect and indifferent. People may care about you and show it in a wrong way. People are imperfect, but systems, they just don't care about you at all. They may show that they don't care about you all the time. In each of your interactions with a system, with a bureaucracy, you may see signs how little does the system care about you. So, should we have expectations from systems? Should we have standards? Well, you should know how things are supposed to be, but you should accept them the way they are and then strive for change. Well, isn't this a contradiction? Yes, kind of, but otherwise it doesn't work, because in order to improve a system, you should know why it is the way that it is. What were the driving forces to form and sustain this system in its current form? In order to have this deep understanding of a system, you should have some feelings of care for the system. Otherwise, you wouldn't care to understand. And if you have these flow feelings of care to a system, then you can understand it, then you can start to change it. And what would happen if you have standards, if you have high standards, if you have expectations? Well, these are boxes, and these boxes will stop the flow of caring for the system. So we are stopping this chain that leads to changing the system in the end. Having standards is good if you can have them without them eliciting any boxes, any negative emotions about the system. You have full right to be angry at the system, but actually, if you want to understand it, you should recognize that the system is just a structure. Love it or hate it, it's there. The only thing that can improve it is a flow, and it starts with caring about the people who build the structure, even if they did a very poor job. Start with caring for these people, understanding them, putting yourself in their shoes, and then you will be able to see why they did what they did, how things can be done differently, and you'll be able to change the system effectively. Because if you just are very angry and without understanding, you say, this shit isn't supposed to be this way, and you make a big push, and then the system will resist and you will do nothing. You move it a bit and then it gets back into the same form, because all systems have good self-defense mechanisms. This is what defines powerful systems: good self-defense mechanisms. Because if they didn't have them, they would be outcompeted by other systems, other structures in the Darwinistic fight for survival of ideas and structures. And if you engage a system without boxes, try to understand, try to intuitively understand who made this the way it is, why. And there are only flows. What do you keep? You keep the option for creativity. The moment you put the standards, the boxes, the evaluations, the labels, you give boxes control over your mind and you lose the creativity. The moment you don't do it, give it the uncertainty. The moment you remove expectations, you can be very creative. And there are so many creative ways. There are so many creative ways to try to change a system. And if you give yourself the chance, you may come up with an idea that can change or destroy the system or do something extremely beneficial. But for this idea, you have to remove the boxes in order to give space for the flows and the creativity to come. And this is how change happens. And we arrive at the worst box of all boxes: the expectations from future you. The worst. This is usually represented by phrases such as, once this is over, I'll have the time to do this. Once this is over, I will have saved the money to do that. Once this is over, I will have more time for my loved ones. All of those thoughts. So I'm not talking about the situations. But situations, life can put us in any situation. We can be somewhere far away from our family, working, trying to make money to support them. And this is not a bad thing if there was no better choice. But thinking, putting it in thought, into this box thought that divides our life into the past that we are unhappy with and the future that once we get out of this box, we get into the better box. This is extremely harmful. Why? Well, it's the worst signal that you can give yourself. This is the absolute worst signal that you can give yourself in one thought. It has 6 negative signals in one, actually, this one. So let's say that it's once X is over, I'll be able to have the money, time to do Y. Sends you 6 bad signals at the same time. First signal, I'm currently helpless regarding Y, because I cannot do it now. If I could do it now, I would do it now, because it's obviously something good. But it tells yourself the signal that you're helpless. Sends the signal that Y is not important to you, because otherwise, again, you would find a way to do it now. So if it's once I finish my work, I will spend more time with my family. This is directly saying that your family is not important to you, which is not the signal you want to give yourself. Then it's a signal that you don't like X, because if you like X, you wouldn't want to finish it and get to Y. So this is giving you a signal that you're in the worst possible situation. You're doing X that you don't like, and you like Y, but you cannot do Y because you have to do X first. And then it's just sending inside very bad structure, very boxy structure. It's like it sends inside the signal that my life is a collection of boxes, like X and Y, in time and in space and in behavior. I can only do one box at a time, which is a very bad signal, because you want to be able to do everything at the same time. This superhuman, that's like the best signal that you can send. And once you send the signal that you can only do one thing at a time, and it's something that you don't even enjoy, but at least you don't enjoy it as much as Y, and it's just you giving yourself a signal that you're weak, incapable, and that your life is meaningless. And you're giving yourself the signal that your timeline is separated into boxes, which is, again, a bad thing, very related to expectations about when you will do something with your life. And in the end, you're placing pressure on finishing X and returning to Y, or starting Y. And this pressure can ruin the actual X and Y things, because this thought is a pressure thought. Once I do something, then something. This is a pressure thought. It's self-pressure. And pressure is almost always bad. You're putting pressure on the future. You're doing expectations. And it's just the very box structure of this thing is making it not just bad on an emotional level, but also bad on a structural level. The more times that you think these thoughts, the worst will everything be in your life. I have had people working for me telling me stuff like, once I finish my university, I'll be able to do better work. Right now, I'm too tired. Stuff like this. At the moment I heard this the first time, I'm like, okay. And then people finishes the university and then, let's say, starts another job or does something else. It never works out. Like, never. 0% of the time will it actually be like the thought. And I was wondering why. Like, life is so random. How can something have 0% of success? Like, even the broken clock is right twice a day. So how can this be? I learned in time that this specific very boxy type of thinking is a coping mechanism of people who lack flows at a very basic level, who lack self-love, meaning, and it's an extremely accurate prediction of failure, because the person who says this sentence, once I finish this, I'll have time for this, the person who actually say it, like not think it, but say it really to someone else, is a person who is insecure, doesn't really, is not confident about their path in life, and they're doing like a reassuring thing, like insecure people do. They will self-sabotage. They will make sure they will fail, because they are feeling that they're somehow on the road to failure, and with these words they cement that they're on the road to failure, because only someone who is on the road to failure and feels it, only they will say those words to some kind of desperate attempt to change the course. But you're not changing it, you're just cementing the road to failure. If you ever hear those words, prepare for disaster. Not not like discourage the person who is maybe doing their best, just be at a bad moment or something, but prepare for disaster, because these are the most failure predicting words in among any words. Like if someone would tell you, I will succeed, I will fail, this has some connotations with the result. If they tell you, I will fail, yeah, it's a bit more probable that they would fail. But these specific sentences, once something is over, I will do something else. This is the biggest predictor of failure among all words ever. And yeah, if you never say this to yourself, if you ever catch saying this to yourself, it's such a big signal that you should just be shaken to the core and think what is wrong with your life, because this is the most accurate symptom if you have lack of meaning in your life and are not doing the things that you would want to do. It means that you don't have the right flows, and it means that you have unhelpful coping mechanisms, because this is a very unhelpful coping mechanism, because this saying does not help you in any way, and it just reinforces your path leading to failure. So now you know how it looks to win, to get lost in a forest, to run in the crowd, to send an open letter, to send long emails. And now you know how it looks to be defeated by the boxes. It sounds like once X is over, I'll have the time to do Y. This is how it looks to be defeated by the boxes. And the fight is 24/7, it's eternal. You always have a chance to improve. The world will give you a lot of boxes. It will give you comfort zones, but you can always get out of them. You can fight, and your natural flows are strong. They just may be buried very deep within. Don't do a lot of logical thinking, because this is a boxy thing. Of course, there are situations where you may need to, where you need to plan, where you need to estimate logically, but always try to build your intuition. Always try to give your strongest flows, self-love, love, empathy, meaning, to give them space, to give them time to develop. They will destroy the boxes, they will destroy the addictions, the bad habits, the coping mechanisms. You don't need to forcibly change your habits. The flows will do everything. You just need to give them the space and the time, and everything will become better. Your super powerful tool are the unpopular forests. As we talk, being able to plan something that guarantees you a flow is your strategic superpower in this struggle. If you can go into a forest and let go of all of the boxes, you can do anything. In your life, you have the chance to spot everything that supports flows and use it and invent it and be creative and share it with other people and combine all the flows, because they are always better combined. And sooner or later, you will start having these leaps of faith where you ditch the boxes and you don't replace them with other boxes, you replace them with flows, and you will feel so much lighter and happier and just not troubled. A lot of the things that were causing you trouble, like comparing yourself to other people, trying to evaluate yourself, focusing on performance, all of those will disappear, and you not only will be happier, but also will be turned outwards towards the world. You will be able to love and to give real, healthy love to all of the people around. And eventually, when you destroy the last boxes and see all of the world as a whole, you will be able to find meaning almost everywhere, and you will be able to understand and change the world for the better. I hope that you like these many hours of boxes and flows. This is the most important thing that I can tell you. It is the most important personal fight in our lives, and it's one that you can definitely win, so that you can the full capacity of your brain and body and soul and be a hero in a world that needs heroes. I hope you share this. It's very valuable for people to hear. Like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you in the next one.